Hey everyone, welcome to the NFL Players Podcast. I am your host, Erik Averill, co-founder of AWM Capital, and I am joined alongside my co-host, former NFL player, Zach Miller. Welcome to the podcast, Zach.
Thanks, Erik, for that introduction. I'm excited to be doing this. First-time podcaster, so I promise I can get better, and I'm looking forward to this.
Well, we're hoping all that media training will pay off, and we're putting you in the hot seat, but really excited to launch this podcast. As a lot of people know, AWM Capital, we've worked deep with the MLB players for a very, very long time, and this is our entrance into the NFL, and it's really exciting to have you as not only a former player, but now someone who's passed the Certified Financial Planning designation. And we'd just love to hear your thoughts of what it is that you're trying to accomplish, sharing with players, agents, families of players on this podcast.
So my biggest goal is to help athletes, particularly NFL players, not just to raise their financial IQ, but to help them make better investment decisions, being able to pick the right team of advisors to help them be able to grow their wealth, keep their wealth, have the kind of retirements that they want, achieve their goals while they're playing, take that kind of stress out of their lives. And so I hope to be, the financial advisor to NFL players that knows the most, that does the best for their clients, and above all else, treats them like I wanted to be treated and would have liked to have as an advisor when I myself was a player.
And I think this is a really unique conversation and opportunity for us to dig into what does an NFL player actually need, because you're not guessing about it. One thing I love about being part of AWM, and we founded this company over a decade ago, is we're former professional athletes, so we're not guessing on what are the unique lifestyle, what are the unique, services that they need, what are some of the complexity of being an athlete. And I'd love for you to just maybe walk through, when did you understand that football was a business?
I think I first understood the business side when I'm a rookie and I see the NFL veterans, the 8-year, 10-year guys, when they get cut, they get cut from the team. They're a starter or they're a really good player, maybe possibly Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, and the team, they're too expensive for the team, so that the team cuts them, and you realize real quick that eventually your career will end. It happens to all athletes. There is a timer on your career. You can't play forever. And as soon as you can understand that as a player, as soon as you can understand that the end will eventually come, the better you can start planning for after football. And I think every young guy in the NFL gets that wake up moment where you see the business side of the game.
Yeah, I think, I'd read recently it's a $14 billion industry. And a lot of times, you played for the Raiders, you played for the Seahawks, and we think about the logo. But what we really don't talk about is that it's a company. These are 32 multi-billion-dollar companies, and treating players really what they are is assets, right? They're investments to help generate profits for that company. And that might sound very cold, but as a player, how should players start to think about themselves? One of the things we always hear, and we'll get into it, is think about yourself as a CEO or as a business. Does that resonate with players? What advice do you have for players when it comes to thinking about themselves as a professional?
It does resonate. It takes time though. As a young guy in the NFL, you're just trying to prove yourself. You're trying to establish yourself on the team, your role, contributing as best you can to help the team win, earning the respect of your teammates. And then as you get older in the NFL, as you learn more, as you get more business savvy, you can start to take that approach. But it's definitely a learning curve. There's kind of a life cycle of an NFL player. And as you get further and deeper into your NFL career, you definitely understand that the business side of the game, from a team point of view, how you should really be looking at the professionals you surround yourself with, and who they are, what kind of standard you're holding them to. And you've put in so much effort and so much time to being an NFL player, to achieving that goal and to achieving the kind of excellence on the field, that you should demand that off the field, whether that's, who you hire as your agent, who you hire for your financial team. And it should be a team. It shouldn't just be one individual. That's really not good enough. And that's not the service that you deserve as a player. You deserve the absolute best. And I know that there's a need for that. And that's a big part of why I wanted to come work at AWM, is because it's built from the ground up to service the needs of athletes. And immediately when I was looking at places, they're not a good fit for athletes. They don't understand the athletes. They don't understand the what's going on in their head and how quickly a career can end. And those type of firms will never understand the athlete.
You bring up a great point, right? Like, we know this, that the greatest driver of our wealth as professional athletes is our career. And so much of what we need at certain times of our career is a robust service team around us that understands our lifestyles, understands our psyche, understands how to make a lot of those decisions. And when Brandon, Robbie, and I, when we launched AWM, it was really built out of that, of saying, when we looked around, there was not an existing company that was built to meet the specialized need of the athlete. What you really saw was the mass markets, right? The Merrill Lynch's, the UBS, the Wells Fargo's, that they may have a few athletes here and there, but really what it was is it was a tack on to an existing business that was built for the mass affluent. And as an athlete, I think that we would all get this analogy. When the off season hits, we don't roll over to 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness, right? You would never do. That's crazy. You go to Exos, you go to PFS, you go to the elite specialized place, because you know that to stay at the top of your game, to make sure that you're starting and ultimately don't get fired and your career's over, you demand excellence. And so I love hearing that. One of the things that I would love to just dig into is through your story. It's curious to me that you said it wasn't even until your rookie season you really started to grasp how short and shrewd it was as a business, because you're a second round pick out of ASU. I mean, what was that like when you first came into money as what were you, 21, 22 years old?
I was 21 when I got my signing bonus, and it's life-changing money. You go from a scholarship check of like $900 a month in college to all of a sudden, your paychecks are huge with a couple $1 million signing bonus. And it's really tough to be prepared for that. And it's why, I wish that I would have known what a certified financial planner was when I was a rookie, because I would have just hired one immediately, and really vetted that professional. Instead, I did what in hindsight, I wish I could have, done so much better, is I hired an advisor from Merrill Lynch. And while these people that work there, they can be good people, but the business model is not really set up to help an athlete succeed. They're handcuffed to only the small amount of advice they can provide on a portfolio. And that, you want to have a portfolio that does well, but you need to look at all the other financial assets, all the other financial decisions that come into an athlete's life. And you can really optimize and help a player achieve wealth and sustain that wealth through, a holistic plan. And, I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, hey, you need to do a better job of surrounding yourself with the right team of advisors. When it does the tax planning, that does, estate planning when you get to that point, that does the right kind of planning and covers your insurance, whether that's disability or life insurance with a family. I mean, these are the things that you're not going to get if you're not at an independent place. If you go to one of those big brokerage houses, they're not going to give you the kind of financial planning first advice that you need. And that's one thing that I could change about my past, that would have added so much benefit to me as a player when I was playing, to be able to take that stress off myself, and to be able to build wealth more efficiently, more effectively. And it's what it's what I could have done differently that I know now.
And really, that's the goal of this podcast in the future, right? Is to help future players, whether they're just starting out or the NFL veteran or the retired player, start to bring awareness to the things that you just didn't even know that you needed. I think that's one of the hardest things is your window's so short and money is really a byproduct of the fact that you are so concentrated on trying to perform at the highest level that very few people do in the world. And you really can't take your eye off the ball as far as that performance, that a lot of times they're turning over so much trust to our agents, to our financial people, that we don't even realize that we need disability insurance. I mean, you share a story that we'll get into in a future podcast of you sign a multi-year deal up in Seattle after being a free agent that you just assume, hey, I don't need this anymore. Or the other things we'll jump into is it seems like it's a trend. Every time you sign with a new team, you buy a house there. You know, are these the right things to be doing? There are even questions you just don't even know you should be asking along the way. So we're hoping to uncover those questions and answers for players. One of the things I would love to hear you talk about is defining what success is and define what winning is for an individual family. I think sometimes we forget about this. We're so stuck in the weeds that we're talking about tax planning or investment, but for a family, what are they trying to achieve?
This comes down to personality, really, but I think everyone, once you have a family, is you want financial security, and you want the outcomes. For myself, it's taking care of my family and kids. I have 4 little ones. I've been married to my wife for 10 years. We have 7-year-old twins, a 5-year-old boy, and a 1-year-old girl. So um, it's it's being able to provide for them, and working here on something I care about is something that I want them to see, and I want to show them that you when you're passionate about something and you can work and attack that kind of whether it's trying to change an industry or fixing a problem that I see in the financial services industry. That's what I want to be able to show my kids, that when you're passionate about something, you should go out and try to change it. And that's why I'm not just saying we should educate players more. I think you need the right people with the right reputation. And I would go as far as to say that ask any coach or player I've ever played with, and they would vouch for me because I'm about the actions, and what you do should align with what you say. But I mean, as they say, talk is cheap, and I've seen so many people talk a good game and make promises, and whether that's in investments or in family and life, it's about who see what actions they do. That's why I went back and got my finance undergrad at ASU. I finished my degree because that was important to me. I went and did the certified financial planner education because that's important to me, to have the knowledge. If I'm going to be an advisor to NFL players, I need to be able to back that up with not just the education, the knowledge of what I've been through playing, but also the experience of coming here to work with athletes and seeing what you guys have done with baseball players, and being able to establish that in the NFL is something that I'm going to achieve. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and it was what was so intriguing about having you join the team is when we set the mission of this company, right? It's to help our clients unlock the full potential of their wealth for maximal impact. Is we always say money is not the ultimate goal. It's a tool to be used for impact, and it's looking at as something you parked on. This is a passion of mine. It's not about trying to expose professional athletes to get access to their dollars, right? We see this unfortunately in the typical financial industry world is you have these big brokerage homes starting athlete divisions, and they might go hire a former NFL player, but that's a marketing tool. That's a sales individual who's still trying to get access to you as a client so that they can sell you things. Completely different than here you are. I mean, as a player who's lived it out, the thing I also love about the CFP education is you were doing that to apply it to your own personal wealth and your own family. And so this isn't just something you're talking about, you're living it out, right? You went through the draft, you went through free agency, signed a long-term deal, you went through a lockout in the NFL, changed agents, went through a catastrophic injury. Now you're dealing with retirement. You were a union rep through all of this. And what was so inspiring to us was here's a guy who doesn't need a job. He wants to make an impact. He wants to change an industry. And the thing that was so important for us when we started AWM was the fact that being a former athlete's not enough. It's great that we know what it's like to be in the locker room, but it's the professionalism of we're trying to hire the best financial experts. And so building that team around, really asking the question, starting with a blank slate, not is what's the best option that's available. It was, what do the wealthiest people in the world do? What do the owners of the team do with their wealth? And can we build something using the best of those ingredients specifically for the athlete? And so, I would love to hear, what was that? You mentioned changing agents. That's really hard because in an advisor standpoint, whether it's your financial or your agent, trust, relationship. Like, this is how we're choosing people. What was that like?
It's difficult. You have such a strong relationship with your agent. You're getting so much advice from them. You just build a natural trust with them. And for me, it came down to a business decision. I outplayed my contract with the Raiders, and you had to detach emotion from it. You have to demand the best. And so I changed agents to someone that could get me a long-term deal was what I was looking for, a long-term deal with financial security and guarantees in there. And so I gave my agent through my entire rookie deal to get that deal done in Oakland, and it didn't happen. So I changed agents in 2011 and signed a big deal in Seattle, months after right when the lockout ended, and months after changing my agent. So it's no different than holding your financial advisor, your wealth manager, your business manager. You have to hold them accountable. And if they're afraid of the competition, that's on them. They need to be open to being evaluated by an outside source. They need to be honest with you. They need to prove their value to you, because there's too many athletes, too many NFL guys that get taken advantage of, and sometimes it's outright fraud. Sometimes it's recommending bad investments, or in other cases, it's just not providing the service that the player deserves. A lot of times they can be fine people, but because of the structure of where they're at a big brokerage house. They're just worried about asset management. They only want to worry about the portfolio. You need the financial planning first. That part of your wealth is the one that needs to be taken care of, and it's what the NFL owners do. They have independent family offices. That's what they have. And so you need to start thinking like that. You need to put the team that is an expert and is proven, not just in designations and certifications, but experience in working with athletes, because there's plenty of guys that have gone back into financial services after being players. And that's all they are. They're a name, and they get promoted straight up because of, where they played or how long they played. And they're not dedicated to their craft of actually being good with finance and the math and the numbers, and then being able to understand their players. I've been through, I think almost everything an NFL player can be through, and
Right.
so I understand when I'm working with Major League Baseball guys, and it's easy to say, oh, they should be doing this better, or they should be doing that better, but you have to remember that they're in their early 20s. You don't have the business savvy, you don't have the financial savvy, you're still figuring things out. And so for me, I'm always going to side with the players and see it from their point of view, and be able to, and I want to be able to communicate that, I was in your same situation. You don't have to be perfect. You can just be good, and your situation will be, excellent by the time you're done playing.
Yeah, and you hit on so many key things there. One of them, when you started that conversation of switching agents, it's not personal, it was business. And every player who is now a former athlete knows that's the comment that comes ultimately from the organization. Hey, we've loved having you. You were a Pro Bowler, but your injuries, it's not personal, Zach. We really would love to sign you. We just can't with those medicals. It's not personal. It's just business. And that's a cold sting, but we understand it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they're not going to continue to pay you millions of dollars if there's someone that has better competency, right? Expertise, someone that they think can help the team. Yet, why don't we apply that as athletes to the professional arena of our life? It really is saying, how do we think like these business owners? How do we think like team owners? And that was a big passion for Brandon and I, is people will give you these sound bites. Hey, you should be the CEO of your career. You should act like a business owner. Yet it sounds really good, but most people who are telling them that are either employees. They've never owned anything. They've never been a CEO, or they've never had their own personal wealth to manage. And that's where I think we uniquely come from, is we own a business. We deploy capital for a living. We understand how companies are ran. We understand what it means to have an operations team. You understand what it means to make these decisions as a family, of moving them certain places, of how to deal with contracts. And there's this complexity as an athlete that you really do need to treat it as a business owner. Now you got to put the team of experts around you, and the relationship thing's super interesting. Of course you want to like your agent. Of course you want to like your financial person, but in the book Speed of Trust, there's this more robust definition of what trust is. We usually stop with likability. Do we like the person? And then we stop there. The problem is, I can really like you. You could be great. I'll even trust you to watch my kids. That's how much I trust you. But you know nothing about taxes, nothing about investing, nothing about estate planning. You have no competency. This would be like me being like, hey, I really like football. Hey, can I roll out and play for the Seahawks? I'm a really trustworthy person, but I can't catch a freaking football, right? And I weigh 190 pounds. I'm going to get killed. I'm not very competent. I wouldn't be very good. And we laugh about that. But on the financial side, it's like, oh, I kind of like this person. Yet, are they a certified financial planner? Are they a certified private wealth advisor? And do they have a history? Do they have a track record of having successful outcomes for clients in your situation? And I think that that's really important, of talking about order of operation, that first and foremost, your agent, your financial team are showing up because there's a business interest. And that's not right or wrong. It's just the truth. Make sure that they're competent first. Make sure that they have experience having successful outcomes, and then make sure that you like them, so it's just flipping it around. And what other areas do you feel like you see from your own career, things that you just didn't know that you're like, oh my goodness, I wish I would have known?
I think the biggest thing is to your last point, is that I expected that the people I hired, the people I surrounded myself with, whether it was a CPA that was separate from my advisor, that's separate from an insurance agent, I expected them to have the same kind of desire to win and succeed at everything I've done, that I have in my heart, that I want to be the best at everything. And I expected them to do that too. And it was not the case. They're there to make a buck, essentially. They're just trying to get the job done and do a decent job. And they don't truly care about you. They don't understand you. They're not the best at what they do, and they don't strive for that. And that's one thing I've always done in anything I've tried to achieve, is just if you're going to do it, you might as well do it the best, put in your best effort, the best work. And if you do your best and you lose out, you lose the game, whatever it may be, so be it. But you should always put your best effort in. And I that's something that I've you got to hold people accountable, because not everyone's always going to be looking out for your best interest. And own your wealth is a saying here, and it makes so much sense to me, because that's one thing that you should take ownership of all the decisions of who you hire, whether it's agent, your financial advisor, whether it's anyone working with business, family. You should take ownership of that, because at the end of the day, it's on you. And the sooner you can take ownership of that, interview enough financial advisors, enough agents, and you make the final call. Don't rely on family. Don't rely on friends. You need to separate those things, because that way, when you hold someone accountable, there's not any relationship strains, or there's not any ill will. That's one thing that all athletes should do, is truly own their wealth, take ownership of it, uh, and you know, expect more from the people that you surround yourself with in your team. It's what all the wealthiest families in this country do.
Yeah, and we'll spend a full episode talking about who is qualified and how do you find those people. I think the good news is they actually exist. One of the things that makes us passionate about this is there is a better solution, and the reason you think you can change an industry, that sounds crazy, right? Like you think that you alone are going to come in and change something that historically athletes, this story is old of time, that an athlete makes a lot of money and ends up in a bad situation. There have been for years and decades of former athletes getting into the financial industry that say they're there to help, but they really just turn into salespeople, right? It's been reported on over and over again, but we finally believe there's actually a solution, and that's what we built AWM to be, is to be able to guide you guys as the players, as the families, and even agents listening, saying, you are there to serve your client's best interest, and we're going to provide that roadmap going forward for you to make sure that you are owning your wealth, that you're capturing the financial life that you deserve. And so we appreciate your guys' attention. We're excited to start this journey with you. We're going to be with you every single week. Zach is going to continue just to share his personal experiences and provide you guys with the tools and the tips that you need to own your wealth. So until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, and always be a pro.
Always compete.